Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning into this video about GeoLayers in After Effects, and today I'm going to show you how to make this. If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the Westfield Shopping Centre car park, accessible via aerial way just before Wood Lane Tube Station if approaching from the south. Expect prices to be around £8.50 for an average working day or £15 for 24 hours. Now, I'm not going to waste any more of your time with an intro because this is actually a project I need to get finished off for one of my clients. I just thought I would be able to turn this into a bit of a learning opportunity and show you guys how you can also use GeoLayers and After Effects to create a similar kind of thing. And using the principles I teach in this tutorial, you can go on to make some more complex animations such as this one here, which is another component of the same project but showing public transport lines. I was able to draw these accurately by lining up screen grabs from Google Maps with the GeoLayers imagery and then drawing and animating trim paths. Now, this piece did take a bit longer to put together at just over 3 hours, as there was quite a lot of finicky work getting everything to line up, but I was pretty happy with the final result. So I'll pull up After Effects right now, we'll just jump straight into it, and I'm going to talk you through the process. There'll be a lot of speeding up and kind of cutting and chopping throughout this video, because end to end, I anticipate this will take about 45 minutes to make. Obviously, I don't want to post a 45-minute video to YouTube. So yeah, let's see how it turns out. This is the first time I've made one of these kinds of videos, doing like a screen recording full walkthrough. So bear with me, hopefully it turns out okay, and hopefully you enjoy the end result. I'll also apologize up front for the squeaky chair. It really is horrendous and I need to get a new office chair ASAP. I actually can't deal with it anymore because I'll be recording a video or a voiceover and it just makes this horrendous. Yeah, like I said, apologies up front. I am going to be getting myself a new one very, very soon. All right, so without any further ado, let's just pull up After Effects. I'm just going to create a new project here and I'm going to set a new composition. I'm just going to call this Car Park Map Comp 4K. Because my master video that this is going into is a 4K video, so I want to make sure that this fits the same kind of resolution and frame rate, which is 25p. And it only needs to be around a 25-second clip. So I'm going to set this to 25 seconds, just so I know what I'm working with. Click OK. I'm just going to bring in the voiceover from the Premiere project so that I can make sure that all of the animations completely line up with the voiceover. So I'm just going to bounce that and then I'll come back to you. All right, so that is done. We should now have our voiceover right here. Cool. Yes, the sequence only needs to be 16 seconds. So I'm just going to drop that back so that's exactly where it needs to be. All right, so to build what I'm going to show you today, you do need a third-party plugin called GeoLayers3, and it's not free, it is a paid plugin. But honestly, in my opinion, for the work that I do, it's worth every penny. You can always bill that back to your client anyway, as just overhead costs or subscription costs, or however you want to do that in your invoice. I'm not going to show you how to download that and install it. It's all very self-explanatory, but I will put the link in the description of this video. You get it through AE Scripts and Plugins, which is a great site to pick up these kinds of plugins and things. Link will be in the description. It's not an affiliate link, just convenient place for you to go and grab that. So go buy it, download it, install it, and then I'll see you back here. So once you've got GeoLayers3 installed, you will need to go into the Window tab in After Effects, and then under Extensions, you should find it. I'm going to keep it as a floating panel because you don't need this open the whole time. I kind of like to get it out of the way once I'm done with it. To do that, you would just go, if it was docked, right? If it was like docked in here, you just click on the hamburger icon and then undock panel. So now that we've got that separated out, I am going to go New Project. And now in GeoLayers, we can click on New Project and it's going to give us this map comp view. So I'm going to search for the location where this recording needs to take place, which is Westfield White City in London. All I've done is just type in the place that I need and it automatically finds it, gives it to me in a list. So I am just going to save this as 3840 by 2160, 25 FPS, so it matches my video, and 16 seconds is the duration. Click Next. You'll be able to choose from a number of default types of maps like Bing Aerial, ESRI. There's a bunch of included options. I actually subscribe to a paid platform called MapTiler, which gives you a whole bunch of customizable maps that you can use instead. So I'm going to use one of those in this tutorial. Again, that is an extra cost on top of what you've already paid for the GeoLayers license. Again, I'm just billing that back to my client because I want to give them a nicer type of map and they're happy to pay for that. So I've chosen the one that I want. I'm going to click create. It has all the defaults from the last time I used the software. And it's going to create a map comp of Westfield Aerial Way, which is our shopping centre. Now, the GeoLayers panel is linked to your timeline. So as you zoom out in GeoLayers, you're going to see that reflected in the After Effects preview panel. It's going to look super pixelated. Don't worry about it. When we've finished setting it how we want, we'll finalize the sequence in GeoLayers and that will make everything like super high res. Okay, so don't worry if it looks super pixelated at this point, we're going to correct that later. So I'm just going to listen back to the voiceover and figure out what exactly I need to animate and then go from there. If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the Westfield Shopping Centre car park, accessible via Aerial Way just before Wood Lane Tube Station if approaching from the south. Expect prices to be around 8. Okay, so I want to start by showing an overview of the area, and then I want to zoom in and show the path that someone would have to drive to access the car park that we're talking about from the south, because that's what I've mentioned in the voiceover. So I know that the shopping centre is round about here, kind of this area, and this is like the road network that leads into the shopping centre, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the keyframe icon in GeoLayers. Got it, it's going to give you loads of hint pop-ups. And that's now set a bunch of key points, my latitude, longitude, zoom, all those kind of things in the actual timeline. So that's going to be our starting position. If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the Westfield Shopping Centre car park, accessible. Where I start to talk about how it's accessible or how you can find it, that's where I want our first keyframe to be. So I don't want any movement to happen before that point. That's just going to be the top-down shot of the region. And I am going to take GeoLayers and I am going to park it up here just so that things are a little bit cleaner, a little bit tidier. You can see the full timeline in here. Keep motion 4 so I can get to it as well if I need it. So what we need to do next is add a label for Aerial Way because we want to show people there's a few things that we reference. We reference Wood Lane Tube Station, Aerial Way, which is the road, and Westfield Shopping Centre. So I'm going to add those 3 points of reference into the browser in GeoLayers, and then we'll add labels for them so that people can use those as a visual reference point. So the first one I'm going to type in is Wood Lane. I'm not going to type station because it will tell me it's found a station. Click this little icon to add it to the browser in GeoLayers, and then later there's a few things we can do with that. Next up, I want Aerial Way, which is the road. And I'm going to add this one, number 3 here, because that I can see is closest to the main road. So I'm going to add Aerial Way 3, which is this one, add that to the browser. And then I also want Westfield Shopping Centre. London. Okay, so it hasn't given me a location for the entire shopping centre, but it has given me the Bose store. So, I mean, that's better than nothing. I'm going to add that so that I've got it. And then maybe what we could even do is come into the map settings for the project, and we could maybe turn on under my imagery. We could maybe turn on, I want to be able to see, so this here is a shopping centre. So it looks like that will be visible in the final render. This here gives you a representation of what the final render would look like. That's fine. I can't see it in the After Effects preview, but I can see here that we're gonna, all of this brown stuff, that whole area there is the shopping centre. So I'll leave that for now. Go out of that, haven't made any changes. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit further. Decided I want my starting position to be a little bit further out. Okay, cool. And I'm going to get rid of that Bose store because we don't actually need that. What we'll do instead is we'll draw the mall onto the map separately. We'll do that at the end if we decide that we really need to. So First off, we've got Wood Lane. I'm going to highlight that and then I'm going to add a label to label that feature. So give us a label on screen for Wood Lane Station. Okay. And what we're going to do then is add a label for Aerial Way as well. So add label. So we've now got a label for the road, the tube station that we talked about, and we're going to show that we're approaching from the south, which is what the voiceover says. What I want to do next is show a path that a car would take if it was driving the route that we're talking about. Create a new shape layer in After Effects and grab the pen tool. And I want to show the route that the car is taking through this junction here, up this main road to here. And then I want to show that they're going to turn onto Aerial Way at this point. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make that path a 3D element, because the way that GeoLayers works is it uses 3D tracking points. So we're going to set that as a 3D object. GeoLayers has already created a null object with the word anchor in the title. That is following all of the position points within the map comp. The map comp itself is not in 3D space though. Only the anchor is in 3D space. So that's why if you pick whip the shape layers that you've created to the map comp, you won't see any of the motion being linked, right? If you pick whip that to the map comp anchor, which is the one in 3D space, then as we scale things up, you will see the movement in any shapes or paths that you've drawn. So that's a point worth knowing. At this point, I do just want to hit finalize on here so that I can make sure my path is a bit more high res. So yeah, you just click finalize up in the top corner of GeoLayers, it'll load all the imagery and boom, there you go. It's put it into much higher resolution. And that's the same throughout. So as the map zooms out, it adjusts the imagery and text and resolution of things that need to be seen at that point. So at this point, we've got the path that our car is going to take to get into the car park. What I want to do next is animate this path along a trim path. So to add a trim path to this, double tap U on your keyboard to expand out all the keyframe properties. We're going to click Add Trim Paths and then pop this out. Now we can start to animate that path. So if we come back to the start of our animation, we can reduce the trim path down to 0, add a keyframe for that. We can come to the end of our animation here and up this to 100. And then another plugin that I love in After Effects called Motion 4. Instead of manually adjusting these keyframes, I'm just going to open Motion 4. I'm going to click this icon here, and that's now given me an ease on the keyframes for that animation. Let me tell you, since I started using Motion 4, I've saved probably weeks worth of time. Genuinely, yeah. I actually can't believe I was animating keyframes manually before. It actually makes me feel physically sick how much time I was wasting manually animating keyframes. So Motion 4, the way forward, spend the money, never look back. Okay, with that said, let's just see how this is looking now. Or via Aerial Way, just before Wood Lane Tube Station. Okay, so what I haven't done yet is I haven't shown the reference point for the tube station. So what we'll do is I'm going to bring this quite a bit further forwards in the timeline, just for now. And I'm going to zoom even further out on GeoLayers for this. All right, that looks pretty decent. So at what point do I mention the tube station? If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the Westfield Shopping Centre car park, accessible via Aerial Way. Okay. So we mention where Aerial Way is, and then we say that that is just before the tube station. So I'm going to bring in our label for Aerial Way, and this does get automatically animated by GeoLayers, and it puts it in the right spot of where it thinks Aerial Way is, which is pretty cool. Aerial Way. Okay, that's probably about right. Okay, just before Wood Lane Tube Station. So let's bring that into there. Accessible via Aerial Way, just before Wood Lane Tube. All right, that's probably about right. What I want to do to elevate this as well is bring in an image that I've already pre-created. I've got this image here based on the London Underground imagery, just without any text. And I'm going to bring that in next to my label for the tube station, scale it down to something like that, and put it next to the sign, put it next to the label. Let's go maybe 5%. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick width that to the label so that it follows the label and kind of moves with it scale position wise. That will now track the label. Okay. What I do like about GeoLayers though is how it handles things when you scale them. So you'll see here, as you zoom into the composition, the label and the underground icon keep a relative scale. As in, as the map gets bigger, the labels and anything attached to those stay the same size. So that's quite nice, because otherwise if you were zooming all the way into the map, my label and my underground logo would cover the entire frame. So it automatically scales that in the inverse to keep it the same size, regardless of how the map itself is zooming or scaling in or out.
Now, you can actually use GeoLayers to automatically add a trim path for the car journey, or the pedestrian journey, or the direct airplane journey between two locations in the browser panel. I just didn't do that here because it was a very basic path. But if, for example, I wanted to connect Ariel Way and King's Cross, and I wanted to show the driving route by car for those 2 points, add them to the browser, select them both in the browser, and then you just go connect features, car, bicycle, pedestrian, plane route, straight line, whichever of these options you want. So in my case, that's going to be car. And then you can see it's instantly added the path in the GeoLayers panel. And then we're just going to go draw features. So animate feature path will automatically animate this path for you, so you won't have to manually configure the trim path. So let's go with that option. It will ask how long you want the animation to last, and by default that'll be set at 2 seconds. So just click create animation, got it. And then we've got the shape layer here with the keyframe animation. Move that to where we want it. We'll extend the shape layer a bit. I'm going to highlight my keyframes and add the easing with motion 4. Command-Shift-D here to split that. And then if we move this all the way out to the other keyframe, and then last but not least, we need to give it a stroke. So let's give this a blue stroke for the purposes of the demo. And if you want to change the weight of that stroke as well, because we can't really see it very clearly, you just want to drag that out as normal at the top. And then it will, don't modify the expression on the layer, because then it won't maintain its thickness as it scales. So you see how even when we're right the way zoomed into the map, the stroke stays the same thickness when you're then zoomed all the way out. That's due to the expression, which GeoLayers adds for you. So don't adjust the expression, which you can find by double tapping U here, and then, don't edit this, just change the stroke thickness either here or up here.
All right, so I want to change the position of this so that as we zoom in, we see more of the north of the area rather than the south. So to do that, we can just click, go ahead a couple of frames, click on Link Map Comp View, and then it will set GeoLayers to the current positioning of your map comp. And I always skip ahead a few frames as well, just in case you click the wrong thing in GeoLayers and it overwrites the keyframes that you already had, because I find sometimes you can't undo them for some reason. So if that happens, you've kind of lost it and you've got to reposition everything again. Okay, so at this point, I am going to just drag the whole thing a little bit downwards because I want to show more of the north of the area. A little bit more than that. I want to show more of the north rather than the south. Perfect. All right. And then I'm just going to get rid of these keyframes and I'm going to move these two over to there. And now see how that's looking.
If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the Westfield Shopping Centre car park.
All right. So at this point, I do want to draw on a shape layer to showcase the Westfield Shopping Centre, because even though we've added that slight zoom animation, it still feels a little bit static. So we're going to create a new shape layer, and I've just wasted 15 minutes trying to figure something out. Basically, as I was trying to outline the shopping centre with my path tool, it won't let me, it's being super weird. I'm trying to add points, as you can see, and it's doing something really weird. That's because I've already pick whipped it to the anchor. So undo all of that, and we'll pick whip it after we've drawn the path. Okay, so just set that to none for now. We'll draw in the shopping centre. By the way, if you're struggling with this and it's blocking things, just change the transparency and then we can put it back up to 100% afterwards. You might want to tweak this so it's a bit more accurate. I'm not too fussed about doing that right now. So I'll bring the opacity back up. I'm going to call this layer Westfield Shopping Centre. And I'm going to pick whip that to the map comp anchor, which is this one here. So if we set this to fit, I want to Command Shift D, delete the start of the layer. And then as I say in the voiceover Westfield Shopping Centre, I'm going to keyframe in the opacity of this so that we see it at a time that it makes sense to see it.
If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the web.
Okay, so that's where we introduce the location name. So T on your keyboard for opacity keyframes. Click the little stopwatch to create the keyframe, as we know. Command Shift right arrow to go across 30 frames. Set a new keyframe at 100%. Go back to the first keyframe, drop that down to 0, select the keyframes, and then in motion 4, we're going to adjust the keyframe velocity. How's that looking?
If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the Westfield Shopping Centre car park. Accessible via aerial way just before Wood Lane Tube Station if approaching from the south.
That works. I'm going to drop this down so the overlay isn't hiding the tube station icon. And I'm also going to change the color of the driving route because I don't love the purple. I don't think that makes a lot of sense personally. So we'll select this. Let's go with red because it's super visual. All right, that makes sense. What I want to do though is add a label for Westfield Shopping Centre. So if we come back to GeoLayers, you'll recall that it didn't have a specific location saved in its database for Westfield Shopping Centre. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one of the other aerial way points that it gave me, because remember it had 3 in the beginning. So I'm going to add one of the others. Let's go with number 1, because we didn't add that yet. Add it to the browser. And then what you can do is click on Feature Properties. We can just zoom out here to get an idea of where we are. And you can move this little label icon and we can position that over the shopping centre here. And we're going to rename that to be Westfield Shopping Centre. A little bit cheeky, but it works. Click Apply and then click Add Label. And so now we have a label created for the shopping centre in the location that we've set with the name that we've set. We'll want that label to animate in at the same time that the shape we drew fades in. So that is probably about right if we have it sort of there. Yep, that makes sense. I don't love the font though of the labels. It's not on brand with what my client needs. So what we can do is open up each label. Turn this off so we can see the background shape, make sure that we keep the text in within the confines of the background. And just under feature name, we want to double click and I'm going to change the font to be my client's font, which is this one. And I want it to be all caps because that's on brand with how they like it. I'm going to set it to 27. Yeah, that looks good. All right. I'm just going to copy this and then I can paste in here to replicate the style and just retype Westfield Shopping Centre. Same thing for Wood Lane. I want to turn off the transparency there. Feature name, Wood Lane. Okay, close that. There's only one more thing I want to do, and I want to change the font for where it says Shepherd's Bush, because again, it's not on brand. So the way you can do that is by clicking the hamburger icon here and then settings, map comp labels, which is there. And then it opens up a view here with all of the text elements that get added onto the map when you finalize it. So I want to change the font for all of these. They're all already selected. I'm going to change that to my client's font in bold. And now if we click apply on that, it'll take us back to the main map comp and we can see that that's been corrected. The only thing that's left to do now is change the font for the attribution. So you do have to keep the attribution on there for attribution purposes, obviously, unless I go and pay MapTiler for the rights to remove it, but we haven't done that in this case. So open up your map comp, turn off the shy switch, and then it should be just here, provider attribution template. So unlock it, we'll highlight that. And again, I'm gonna set that to the client's font in caps. All right, and then we can close this. And then once again, click finalize. GeoLayers will now render it in full high res, add all the labels that it needs to add, and we can now preview it back.
If you need to park your car, we therefore recommend the Westfield Shopping Centre car park, accessible via Aerial Way just before Wood Lane Tube Station if approaching from the south.
Cool, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. There really is so much more that you can do with this. I mean, if you really wanted to, you can come into the settings for the map comp and you can change anything you like pretty much. So for example, the color scheme, there are loads of different ones you can choose from depending on the vibe that you want to go for in the video. So personally, I don't really love most of these, but if you wanted to go something that was, super like CSI Miami kind of vibe, this one's giving Jurassic Park almost. I don't know what that is. I don't know why anyone would want to go with that, but there are lots of different colorways baked in that you can go with. What I do quite like is the grayscale one. If you almost want like a stealthy kind of style to it, this is one I've used in the past. But yeah, you can completely customize all of this. You can turn off things like the background so that that's transparent. You can turn off green spaces, rivers, buildings, even all that kind of stuff, the roads, rail networks as well. So there really is a lot of customization in here. I've only just touched the surface, to be honest. But yeah, that pretty much concludes it for this video. So let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you'd want to see with this software. If there's anything in this video that wasn't quite clear or didn't quite make sense, I'm more than happy to have a bit of a back and forth discussion down there as well. So that's it from me, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.